Hey everybody, Sparrow11 here. I just wanted to do a quick video about 3 uses for an IBC tote. And this is going to be mainly geared for like the Southwest or like Mediterranean climate area where you get very low rainfall. Here around Tucson, I think we get between like 10 and 11 inches a year. So very little rain, hard to come by, got to go deep for a well. There's no flowing water in many of the places. So one of the things you can do with an IBC tote is catch rainwater off of your roof, and I'm going to show you a quick system that I have to get set up with that. Last night Larry did a great job on the food preservation. Sorry we showed up a little late, we were running late. We had to leave early, but that was thank you for that, Larry. And some of the people were talking about like water storage after it, and we were talking about IBC totes. So anyway, this is what an IBC tote is, if you've never seen an IBC tote. I don't know all the sizes they come in. I think this is a 275 gallon IBC tote. I know they make like 330 gallon ones or something like that. But they're all going to come with a standard 6-inch screw off top on the top. I had this guttered in from my roof. I have a few of them on the property. I also have a bigger tank. But I just put a little bit of screen in here. This is a very crude setup just to catch the debris. So you could do a more fancy situation, but these things can be had to a place. We can talk about it later. You can just message me. I know a guy who gets these for about $100 to $120 used that are food grade. So if you pick these up anywhere used, make sure that they didn't have anything toxic in them. Make sure they're food grade. And you can trust whoever is reselling them to be truthful about that. So the top is a 6-inch screw off. The bottom has a 2-inch wide coarse thread. So anyway, when you hook these things together, if you ever do, just make sure you get attachments that have the coarse thread. And it's just a 1/4 turn ball, and then you can get water from the bottom. And you can plumb these together. That's what I'm going to do here. This one's empty. This one's full. And I'm going to just plumb them together. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, plumb them together, and just make an out right there. And then I use these a little bit higher up than some of the garden space that I have down here. So I use those for passively watering my garden. So right here, that's 500 gallons. So I see a lot of people like running to Costco and Walmart, and they're buying those 1-gallon containers. Their carts are full, like 4 of them or 10 of them or whatever. I mean, this little package is like 4 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet cube-ish, and it's 275 gallons. So I mean, how much space in your garage would it take up if you were going to buy 275 1-gallon jugs, and for about $100 out the door? And if you don't have the time or resources right now to hook it up to a gutter system, just get one on your property and fill it up with tap water, and at least you have some water. You can figure out how to purify it later, and that's a whole different deal. So there's one use. I'm trying to keep this quick. Another use is, so we have all this garden space, right? We're trying to grow, we're trying to get into more food production. One of the things you can do is you could cut one of these in half. We have it covered up, but you can cut these in half, and the bottom again has a nice, we keep it open, and this is worm juice. So just go, somebody you know has horses, and load about the half bottom of it with horse poop, and you should be able to get that for free. Plenty of people. Just call somebody up. Hey man, you mind if I come by with a pickup and just get a bunch of horse manure? Yeah, sure, okay. And then just dump it in here, and you could buy like a jar of red worms. I can't remember what we paid for it, but we got like a few hundred worms, and you put them in here, and then you just put your food scraps on. You know, like whatever your cuttings are. So when you're eating and your vegetables, don't throw meat in there. Maybe you could, but we don't. But put your vegetables and stuff in a bowl or a bucket when you're doing the dishes, and then just dump it in here if you're not giving it to your chickens, if you have chickens. But dump it in here every once in a while, and the worms will come up and eat the food scraps, and when they don't have enough food scraps, they'll just chow on that horse manure. And what they will create, this used to be horse manure, and what it is now is it's amazing dirt. See how it comes up? This is basically worm poop, but it's like 100% the best organic fertilizer that you can't buy in the store. I mean, you can buy worm castings, but this whole thing now, after a couple months, and then keep the top, keep some like shredded paper, preferably without like plastic coated print on it or cardboard. We just keep all of our things here and we shred it up, newspaper, and keep that on the top, and then wet it down every once in a while. And even when it's 110 degrees, the worms will ball up in the middle and they'll survive here in the desert. So here's a way to, for very low cost, produce some amazing fertilizer to supplement your gardens with, because that might be something that's hard to get a hold of as well. So that's number two, just another use for an IBC tote. Just cut it in half, just use a grinder, just cut the whole thing in half. These things have metal cages around them, so you'll have to cut through that, but it's not too bad. And I like to keep it up. I like to keep it up on blocks for the worm juice. And this stuff is amazing. This is worm juice. It's like super, and the worm castings in there. And then I just keep it tilted a little bit so all of it drains out. So anyway, that's the second use that we use them for here on the property. And the third is something called a wicking bed. Now again, in the north or the Midwest or places where you get a lot of rainfall, it's probably not going to be very, I'm going to duck under the shade cloth here. It's probably not going to be very crucial to have as much like water conservation or to use every last drop of water that you get. Oh, I should note, okay, so the roof here, I just got a regular 15 square foot, just a 1,500 square foot roof. That roof here in Tucson, Arizona will produce roughly 10,000 gallons in a 10 or 11 inch year. So I get about 1,000 gallons per inch of rain. So that's a lot of water, right? So that's a lot of water. If I can collect all of it and use all of it, that'd be great. And sometimes it comes all at once. You know, we had a 3-inch rain here this year, so our tanks overflowed. But I'm trying to stock up and get more and more tanks so I can store it up to get through that dry season. Because if we get into a situation where, God forbid, we get cut off from our water supply, it'd be good to be able to grow some of our own food and have enough water for drinking and all that stuff. So try to figure like a gallon per person per day. And that's just for drinking, and then just try to figure in some for cooking and bathing and stuff like that. If we get into a bad situation, you probably don't need to take a shower every day, depending on what you're doing. But just something to think about, something to calculate, make your own calculations on that. So it's good to have as much water stored as you can on your property if you don't have a well. So this is something called a wicking bed. And so basically what this is, it's kind of like the worm bins. I cut them in half again. I load the bottom third or so with gravel, and then with like compost and dirt, and then that's it. And then there's a pipe here that goes down, and then it's like in an L shape. I go from corner to corner on the bottom, and it's got slots. So I just pop this cap off, and then I water it from the top, but the water goes straight to the bottom and raises up. And these plants will wick the water as they need it. So you keep 100% of the water that you put into the system. You know, if I water my in-ground beds are great, and they work great. They work really, really great, especially in the summer. But the problem is I water them, and then some of that water gets lost. It just passes through and goes to the water table, right? So I don't get 100% efficiency from every drop of water that I'm putting into that system. But this system, it's very, very efficient. You know, nothing's 100%, but it's very, very efficient. So I put the water in, the plants wick it up, and then if I keep, I got to put more mulch on this, but you go get some straw. It's good. That's what we like to use for mulch. But the straw will actually break down and feed the soil as well, so it's good for nutrients. But we'll keep evaporation. So the sun's going to beat down on this all summer, and as long as you keep it covered really good, it'll keep it from taking that water away from you through evaporation. So that's one good reason to have a wicking bed here in the desert Southwest. Here, what I have is I just have a swivel overflow. So if you go down a little bit, I could drain this system. I got to water them. There's not as much water, and I could set what level I want this to be at. So it's just kind of a swivel. So if I want it higher, because I'm going to put seedlings in and the roots are really short, I might set that a lot higher and put a lot more water in it. Or if I ever want to drain the whole system, I'll just turn it down. Or if I have mature plants, I'll kind of leave it in the middle. So that's a good thing to have here in the desert Southwest. These are called, I call them wicking beds. And so for, you know, one of these cages I get for about $90 to $110. So I cut it in half and I get 2. So it's about, you know, like $50 a system. And then, you know, maybe you'll be in it like $15 in pipe. And then if you got to pay for compost, but whatever, so that when you have it, then it'll last a long time. I like to keep them up off the ground just because we get pack rats under here. That's the only reason why that's like that, in case you're wondering. We just got some okra here. Okra is a really good plant here in the south. It grows really well. But yeah, we're kind of switching over right now. We got some peppers going in here. Got some tomato plants back there still going. We got some squash starting to run. I got to put some cages out. But so anyway, I just wanted to talk about 3 good uses for an IBC tote, mainly here in the desert Southwest. Just trying to put some information out there to give some people ideas. If you have any questions about the builds or any other specific questions, just comment in this post. Thanks.